Maciej, thank you for joining us today. I want to start off with a fairly fundamental question. If this bill is signed into law, and it appears it will be, how will it affect the Polish political system? Is the draft law as dangerous for Polish democracy as so many people believe it is?
It is indeed a very dangerous law for two reasons. First of all, its substance is fairly dangerous because it effectively politicizes the Supreme Court, and most probably the next step would be politicization of the whole judiciary. So it effectively removes the separations of powers as we know it in Poland as of now. But more importantly, it just destabilizes the system as a whole. The bill, the way it is proceeded in a very hastily manner, being not properly consulted, being rushed through both chambers of the parliament and causing so many protests, just results in a lowering of trust of Polish people in the very institutions of Polish state.
Mm-hmm. Poles have protested against the policies of the ruling Law and Justice Party throughout the year, for example, against further restrictions on legal abortion or against education reforms. What makes these protests different?
Indeed, and this is a fairly interesting point because as much as Poles have protested for over, well, almost 2 years now against this administration, on so many other issues. What is distinct about this protest is that it brings together people from totally different backgrounds. So if you look at the composition of the protests, and they're not only in Warsaw or in major cities, the protests have spread across the country to the smallest of the villages, as far as in Rzeszów or near Szczecin on the border with Germany. So what is interesting is that this is probably the first time when A, protests are not driven by parliamentary opposition. B, the protests are really intergenerational in a sense that they bring together people of all ages and backgrounds, and most importantly, a vast majority of protesting people are young people.
At the same time, the Law and Justice Party has a strong electoral base, and it doesn't really appear to care about the protests or about how the party is perceived abroad in the international community. Do the protesters have a strategy to reach out to the Law and Justice Party supporters?
Say again, I'm sorry?
Do the protesters have a strategy to reach out to the Law and Justice Party supporters?
Yes. Well, so at first, during the proceeding of the bill in the lower house of the parliament, there was a widespread feeling that the more liberal wing of the Law and Justice, couple of members of parliament who are linked to the Deputy Prime Minister Jarosław Gowin, will try to oppose this horrendous bill and this horrendous reform. However, this has not happened. Both the opposition and protesters have reached out to those members of the parliament, have addressed publicly the ruling party, but to no avail. It basically didn't gather any response. And I agree with what you said. Peace seems not to care too much about public opinion at this point, be it domestic or international.
Peace being the abbreviation for the Law and Justice Party. Just to clarify, the EU has threatened to invoke Article 7 of the European Union Treaty and formally chastise Poland for violating EU democratic standards. What would that mean in practice for Poland?
Well, this is a very good question because the treaty has not been triggered in the history of the Europe. The Article 7 of the treaty has not been triggered in the history of the European Union. So it's a little bit of a blind guess. However, it's the role of this article is basically to punish the countries who are insubordinate and not comply with EU regulations and values. And if this is triggered, it basically means that this article will strip Poland from the voting power in EU's bodies.
Law and Justice as a party is a very populist party. Do such pro-democracy protests that we're seeing now in Poland work in a populist political environment where the leadership claims to represent the people and paints the opposition as a liberal elite?
Well, I think at this point, this is it would be safe to say that these protests have nothing to do with the liberal elite, and they are perhaps more about other issues than liberal democracy. Liberal democracy is not it's an abstract value, honestly, and it's not a value that people would unite behind across Poland in such numbers. I think the protests are about some common decency. It's a sense that the ruling party and the government have overstepped their prerogatives and went a step too far.
One final question. The bill is waiting for President Andrzej Duda's signature. Any chance he'll veto it?
Well, President Duda is a veto player in this situation. He is the only politician of Law and Justice that cannot be fired by Law and Justice chief Jarosław Kaczyński. President Duda has now 21 days after the upper chamber of parliament has approved the bill, and frankly, all eyes on him. Everyone hopes that this will be his defining moment of his presidency. However, past performance proves that he was very much in line with a party line, as far as signing government's bill is concerned. So no surprises if President Duda signs the bill and it effectively becomes law. However, there is also another option than signing it or vetoing it. The bill has been proceeded in such a hastily manner that it includes many inconsistencies that have been acknowledged even by the members of the government. So President Duda's safe bet would be to send it to Constitutional Tribunal to check whether it really complies with the Constitution.
And if he were to do that, what do you think the result would be?
Actually, I think the result would be quite similar in long term to the scenario where he would sign it, because it would buy some time for the government to repackage the bill so that it looks more acceptable. B, it would run into a danger for the opposition and the movement that is emerging of losing the momentum. So I think either or, the situation is not looking very promising.
Well, we'll keep monitoring the situation in Poland. Maciej, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, and have a great day.
You too, thank you.